Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And I want to do something a bit different today with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony happening later tonight. You know, we talked a lot about Guns N' Roses. I had a couple of videos this past week looking at the 2012 induction ceremony where the members of Guns N' Roses were inducted, although Axl and Dizzy and Izzy never showed up. I want to look at some of the bands who aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I'd love to know from you guys, what are some of your thoughts? What are some bands you think who should definitely be in there? Now, there's a bunch of lists floating online. I thought Consequence of Sound had a cool list of the top 20 bands who were snubbed. I'm not going to go through all their bands, but just some of the highlights. Like, it's kind of amazing when you look at some of the people who have been inducted. Like, I'm a huge Green Day fan, but I don't really think they should have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as early as they were. I mean, there's bands who I think, like Alice in Chains, for some reason never comes up. Like, they're not even mentioned as being inducted or a possible inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, even though Facelift came out 28 years ago or however long it's been. So one of the bands who hasn't been inducted is Depeche Mode. They've been eligible for the last 12 years. They've released 14 albums. Huge band in the 80s. They're out on tour now, and they're selling a ton of tickets. The other one that's probably going to anger a lot of metal fans is Motorhead. So Lemmy passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately. He's been eligible for the last 15 years, and, you know, his name never really comes up. I don't know if he's ever been on the ballot as well. And, you know, as of 2016, Motorhead has sold more than 15 million albums worldwide. The other band, which I'm assuming a lot of you guys are not fans of, although I thought I heard somewhere that Axl was maybe a fan, was Devo. So they've been snubbed for the last 15 years, and these guys have sold a ton of records as well. This is another band that I was a fan of. I kind of discovered them through the game Rock Band because their whole first album, Doolittle, was released as DLC. And this is a band that was hugely influential to bands like Nirvana. And I'm kind of shocked that they never really are brought up when it comes to the inductees every time it's that time of year where fans can vote, and then we hear, you know, several months later who's going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So they've been snubbed for the last 5 years, and they've, you know, had a total of 6 albums released, and they've even ranked Doolittle as number 14th, at least on Consequence of Sound's top 100 albums. This next one, I don't really understand how these guys have not been inducted. Now, I know there's a camp of people who think Metallica is better, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who think Iron Maiden are better too, and Iron Maiden has never been inducted, and I don't really hear of their name coming up. They've been snubbed for the last 13 years. They've sold almost 100 million albums worldwide, with they not really having the same kind of exposure that Metallica had on MTV. Another band that's a personal favorite of mine that's been snubbed for the past 10 years is Sonic Youth. And it's kind of funny, their 2009 album they released was the highest charting album of their career throughout the last 25 or 30 years or so. Another band that may surprise a lot of people who did make the 2018 nominee list was Soundgarden. Soundgarden's been eligible for a number of years, and with Chris Cornell passing last May, one would have thought that they would have at least gotten on the ballot list. And another band which came from that era but maybe wasn't from the same town was Stone Temple Pilots. Although Stone Temple Pilots have always had like a love-hate relationship with a lot of music critics. I know a lot of music critics I don't think gave them their fair shake back in the day. Now, another band that's probably going to surprise a lot of people is that Motley Crue has never been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And even though the band in 2007 said that they didn't really have any interest into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we all know that Guns N' Roses is a better band than Motley Crue, they still were a hugely influential band. They sold a ton of records, and they have a lot of fans around the world too. And it's funny, even in the same interview where Nikki Sixx talked about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, he even hinted that he may decline the honor if they in fact do get inducted. Some other notables include Ronnie James Dio, Def Leppard. Even Megadeth has never been on the ballot for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Other notables include Sammy Hagar, although he was inducted back in 2007 as part of Van Halen. And then some other important bands who really should be there include Judas Priest and even Ozzy Osbourne's solo career too. So Black Sabbath was inducted a number of years ago, even though I think it was pretty messy and Ozzy didn't want really any part of it back in 1999. Nine Inch Nails is eligible, but they've never been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I always thought it would be cool if they were ever inducted, that Axl should do the induction ceremony since he was such a huge fan of the band. Even back in the day before they broke big, Nine Inch Nails opened a couple shows for Guns N' Roses. And we even interviewed their producer, Sean Bevan, who talked about what those shows were like. And, if you remember, Axl in 1994 inducted Elton John into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then finally, the last three bands I wanted to point out include Pantera And then former Guns N' Roses bass player Tommy Stinson, his old band, The Replacements, who I kind of got into because of Tommy being in Guns N' Roses. I kind of wondered what The Replacements music was like, and I really got into their music. And then, of course, The Cure. So those are some of the bands that I think should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'd love to know from you guys, what are some of the bands you think that should be inducted, and what do you think of hip-hop artists being included in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as well? So put your comments down below. Are you guys going to watch the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies whenever they're broadcast in about a month or so? I'm only curious to see the Bon Jovi induction because Howard Stern is inducting them, and he was talking about how miserable he is having to fly all the way to Cleveland. He thought the induction ceremony was in New York City. There were some years where they did do it in New York City, but it looks like Cleveland is now where they actually do it because that's where the museum is. So that does it for today's video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hit the like button if you enjoyed that video, and be sure to hit the subscribe button if you love Guns N' Roses as much as I do. And also be sure to go support us on Patreon, where you guys can get some really cool perks that regular subscribers typically don't get. So thanks for watching, and have yourself a good day.